My name is Emma, and I'm about to tell you a story that set my soul ablaze. It happened last summer in our quiet suburb outside Seattle, where the nights hum with secrets and the air feels alive with possibility. At 39, I'd grown accustomed to the emptiness of my marriage, but one stolen moment, one forbidden glance, unleashed a desire I could no longer contain. David, my husband, was gone again, lost to another business trip. Our craftsman house, with its wide porch and creaky floors, stood silent, a hollow shell of the life we once shared. That August, the air was thick with heat, clinging to my skin like a lover's touch. Alone, I decided to reclaim something for myself, something I'd buried under years of routine. I retreated to our bedroom, my sanctuary. The room was bathed in soft gray, the king-sized bed draped in crisp white sheets that felt cool against my skin. I dimmed the lights until only a faint glow remained, the ceiling fan humming softly above. My laptop sat on the nightstand, a gateway to a world I rarely allowed myself to explore. I slipped in my earbuds, the outside world fading away, and opened a video, one I knew was meant for adults only. The images flickered across the screen, raw and unapologetic, stirring a hunger I'd long ignored. My breath quickened, my body responding to the forbidden thrill. The sounds in my earbuds were intimate, pulling me deeper into a haze of desire. My fingers traced the edge of the sheet, my skin tingling as I let myself surrender. The loneliness that had haunted me melted away, replaced by a warmth that spread through me, slow and consuming. I was lost in the moment, my heart racing, my body alive with need. I didn't hear the door creak open. I didn't see him until it was too late. Ryan, David's stepbrother, stood frozen in the doorway. At 27, he was a vision, tall, lean, with dark hair falling over hazel eyes that seemed to pierce right through me. He'd been staying with us for the summer, his presence a quiet disturbance I'd tried to ignore. But there he was, his gaze locked on mine, the sounds from my laptop spilling into the room like a confession. My heart stopped. I fumbled to yank the earbuds out, the blanket slipping as I tried to cover myself. My face burned, shame and desire colliding in a dizzying rush. Ryan's expression was unreadable. Shock, yes, but something darker, something that made my pulse race even faster. His eyes lingered, tracing the curve of my shoulder, the flush of my skin, before he took a slow step back. "I'm so sorry, Emma," he murmured, his voice low and husky, like he was fighting to keep it steady. But his gaze held mine a moment too long, a spark of something dangerous flickering in his eyes. The door clicked shut, and I collapsed against the pillows, my breath ragged, my body trembling. Why hadn't he looked away? And why, in that fleeting moment, had I wanted him to stay? I avoided Ryan for the rest of the day, but the house felt alive with his presence. Every sound, the hum of the fridge, the creak of the stairs, reminded me of him. I kept replaying that moment, his eyes, the way they devoured me, the heat that had surged through me despite my shame. It was wrong, so wrong, but the thought of him set my nerves alight. Dinner was torture. I made pasta, the routine a flimsy anchor, but sitting across from Ryan at the dining table was like stepping into a storm. His presence was electric, drawing my eyes to every detail. The way his fingers curled around his glass, the faint stubble along his jaw, the way his lips parted slightly when he looked at me. "Emma, about earlier," he started, his voice soft but deliberate, like a caress. "Don't," I cut him off, my cheeks flaming. "It was a mistake. Let's forget it." He nodded, but his eyes said otherwise. They lingered on me, dark and hungry. as if he could see the desire I was trying to bury. That night I lay awake, the ceiling fan spinning lazily above. My body still hummed from the afternoon, the memory of Ryan's gaze like a brand on my skin. I imagined him in his room, just down the hall. Was he thinking of me too? The thought sent a shiver through me, a dangerous thrill I couldn't shake. The next day passed in a haze of tension. Ryan kept his distance, but I felt him everywhere, in the quiet of the house, in the weight of the air. I busied myself with meaningless tasks, but my thoughts kept drifting to him, to the way his eyes had held mine. That evening I sought refuge in the shower, hoping the warm water would wash away my thoughts. The steam enveloped me, the heat sinking into my skin as I closed my eyes. The water cascaded over me, each droplet a reminder of the desire I couldn't escape. I let my hands linger, my body aching for release, when the power went out. The bathroom plunged into darkness and my breath caught. "Emma, you okay?" Ryan's voice came from the hallway, closer than I expected, low and urgent. "I'm fine," I called back, my voice trembling, betraying me. "It's just the power." I reached for a towel, my hand shaking as I wrapped it around myself. The fabric was thin, clinging to my damp skin, barely covering me. I stepped into the hallway, the air cool against my flushed body, and followed Ryan's voice to the kitchen. He was rummaging through drawers, his silhouette barely visible in the faint glow from the street outside. "We need candles," he said, his voice tight, like he was holding something back. I moved closer, my bare feet silent against the hardwood. The darkness made everything feel closer, more intimate, as if the world had shrunk to just the two of us. As I reached for a drawer, my body brushed against his, my shoulder grazing his chest. We both froze, the air crackling between us. His breath hitched, and in the dim light I saw his eyes lock onto mine, dark and intense. His hand found my waist, his fingers pressing against the towel, the heat of his touch searing through the thin fabric. My skin burned, every nerve alive with the nearness of him. "Sorry," he whispered, his voice a low growl that sent a shiver down my spine. His face was inches from mine, his breath warm against my cheek, stirring the damp strands of my hair. "It's okay," I managed, my voice barely a whisper, my body trembling under his touch. The towel slipped slightly, and I clutched it tighter, my heart pounding so hard I was sure he could feel it. His hand lingered on my waist, his thumb brushing the curve of my hip, a slow, deliberate motion that made my knees weak. For a moment I thought he might pull me closer, that I might let him. The air was thick with unspoken need, our breaths mingling in the dark. Then the lights flickered back on, harsh and unforgiving. We sprang apart, my chest heaving, my body still humming from his touch. Ryan turned to the breaker box, his movements stiff, but the tension between us was a living thing, pulsing in the air. I fled to my room, the towel clutched tightly, my skin still burning where his fingers had been. The next morning, Ryan was different. He didn't avoid me anymore. He sought me out, his presence a constant pull. When I made coffee, he stood too close, his arm brushing mine, the contact sending sparks through me. When I sat on the couch, he sat beside me, his thigh grazing mine, the heat of him seeping into my skin. Each touch was a reminder of the fire we'd ignited, and I was powerless to resist it. "Emma, we need to talk," he said finally, his voice low and heavy with intent. We were in the living room, the afternoon sun filtering through the blinds, casting shadows across his face. "About what?" I asked, my voice unsteady, though I knew. "About us," he said, leaning closer, his eyes searching mine. "I saw you, Emma, not just yesterday, but every day. The way you move, the way your eyes light up when you think no one's watching. You're in my head, and I can't get you out." My breath caught, his words a match to the kindling inside me. I should have stopped him, but I didn't. "Ryan, this is wrong," I whispered, my voice trembling with need. "Is it?" he challenged, his hand reaching for mine. His touch was electric, his fingers intertwining with mine, pulling me closer. "You're lonely, Emma. I see it, I feel it, and I want you more than I've ever wanted anything." I tried to pull away, but my body betrayed me, leaning into him. "David is your brother," I said, the words a weak defense against the heat building inside me. "David doesn't see you," Ryan said, his voice fierce, his eyes burning. "Not the way I do." The air was thick, suffocating, charged with a need we could no longer deny. His eyes dropped to my lips, and I felt the pull, a magnetic force drawing me to him. I closed the distance, my lips crashing into his, hungry and desperate. His hands found my waist, pulling me against him, his body hard and warm. The kiss was a wildfire, consuming everything in its path. His fingers slid up my back, tracing the curve of my spine, each touch sending shivers through me. I clutched his shirt, my nails digging into his skin, my body aching for more. He deepened the kiss, his tongue teasing mine, a slow, deliberate dance that made my head spin. My hands roamed his chest, feeling the taut muscles beneath his shirt, the heat of him seeping into me. He pulled me closer, his hands sliding to my hips, gripping me with a need that mirrored my own. The world faded away, leaving only the taste of him, the feel of him, the promise of what could be. But reality clawed its way back. I pulled away, gasping, my lips swollen, my body trembling with unspent desire. "We can't," I said, my voice shaking, though every part of me screamed to continue. "Why not?" he asked, his voice rough, his eyes dark with want. His hand cupped my face, his thumb brushing my lower lip, sending a jolt through me. "Because it's wrong," I said, but the words felt like a lie. For the next 2 days, we were caught in a dance of desire and guilt. Every glance was a spark, every touch a flame. Ryan's presence was a constant temptation, his eyes following me, his voice a low hum that set my nerves alight. David was due back soon, and the thought of facing him filled me with dread. But Ryan was a fire I couldn't extinguish. One night I found him on the back porch, the stars bright above us, the air heavy with the scent of summer. "Emma," he said, his voice low and raw, "I can't keep pretending." I stepped closer, the night wrapping around us like a cocoon. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice a whisper, my body already leaning toward him. "You," he said, his hand cupping my cheek, his thumb tracing the curve of my jaw. There was no hesitation this time. His lips found mine, the kiss deep and consuming, like he was claiming every part of me. His hands roamed my body, slow and deliberate, as if he was savoring every inch. One hand slid to the small of my back, pulling me flush against him, the heat of his body searing through my thin dress. My fingers tangled in his hair, tugging gently, a soft moan escaping my lips as his mouth moved to my neck, his breath hot against my skin. He pressed himself closer, his hands gripping my hips, guiding me until my back met the porch railing. The wood was cool against my skin, a stark contrast to the fire between us. His lips trailed along my collarbone, each kiss a spark that ignited something deeper. My hand slid under his shirt, feeling the taut planes of his back, the way his muscles tensed under my touch. Every nerve in my body was alive, my breath coming in short, desperate gasps as we teetered on the edge of something we couldn't take back. But then I heard it, the crunch of gravel in the driveway. David. We sprang apart, my heart racing, my lips tingling from his kiss. "Go," I hissed, my voice trembling. Ryan slipped into the house, his eyes still burning with need. I smoothed my dress, my hand shaking, and went inside to face my husband. David was different when he returned. He was attentive, almost too attentive, his eyes following me around the house. "Is everything okay, Emma?" he asked one morning, his tone sharp with suspicion. "Of course," I lied, my stomach twisting. But the guilt was eating me alive. Ryan and I kept our distance, but our secret was a living thing, pulsing between us. Late at night, we'd text, our words careful but laced with longing. "I can't stop thinking about you," he'd write, and I'd feel that heat again, that pull. Then came the message that changed everything. It was from Sarah, David's sister, and my best friend. "Emma, we need to talk. I saw you and Ryan on the porch." "I know." My blood ran cold. Sarah knew. And if she knew, it was only a matter of time before David did too. I met Sarah at a coffee shop in town, my nerves frayed. She looked at me with a mix of pity and judgment. "Emma, what are you doing?" she asked. "He's David's brother. This could destroy your marriage." "I know," I said, my voice breaking. "It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen." "Then end it," she said firmly, "before David finds out. Because if I saw you, others might have too." That night, I confronted Ryan. "We have to stop," I said, tears streaming down my face. "Sarah knows. It's too dangerous." He stepped closer, his hand brushing my arm, his touch reigniting the fire inside me. "I don't care who knows," he said, his voice fierce. "I want you, Emma. I'll leave everything for you." His words were a temptation, a promise of something I'd never dared to dream. But they were also a warning. If we continued, there would be no going back. The next day, David announced he had to leave again for a last-minute trip. "Just one night," he said, kissing my forehead. But his eyes lingered on me, searching for something I prayed he wouldn't find. The weight of my secret pressed down on me, a constant reminder of the line I'd crossed. As soon as David's car pulled out of the driveway, Ryan was there, his presence filling the house like a storm. We stood in the living room, the silence between us heavy with unspoken need. "Emma," he said, his voice raw, his eyes burning with a hunger that mirrored my own. "Tell me what you want." I looked at him, at the man who'd awakened a fire in me I thought was dead. My heart raced, my body aching for him, despite the guilt clawing at me. "I want you," I whispered, my voice trembling with desire. "But I'm terrified of what this means." He closed the distance between us, his hand cupping my face, his thumb brushing my cheek. "Let me show you," he murmured, his lips crashing into mine. The kiss was fierce, a desperate claim that set my soul ablaze. His hands roamed my body, one sliding to the small of my back, pulling me against him, the other tangling in my hair, tilting my head to deepen the kiss. My fingers dug into his shoulders, my nails grazing his skin, a soft moan escaping as his lips trailed to my neck, his breath hot and teasing. He guided me backward, my back meeting the wall, the cool plaster, a stark contrast to the heat of his body pressed against mine. His hands gripped my hips, his fingers digging in with a need that made my knees weak. My hands slid under his shirt, tracing the hard lines of his chest, feeling the rapid beat of his heart beneath my touch. Every kiss, every touch was a step closer to a line we couldn't uncross, a promise of something we both craved. My body arched into him, my breath coming in short, desperate gasps, the world narrowing to the feel of him, the taste of him. But then the front door slammed open, the sound shattering the haze of desire. David stood in the doorway, his face a mask of fury. Behind him was Sarah, her eyes wide with shock and disapproval. My heart stopped, my hands falling from Ryan as I stumbled back, the air thick with the weight of our betrayal. "Emma, what the hell is this?" David demanded, his voice low and dangerous, his eyes flicking between me and Ryan. His hands were clenched into fists, his body trembling with barely contained rage. I opened my mouth, but no words came. My lips were still swollen from Ryan's kiss, my body still humming with his touch. Ryan stepped forward, his jaw tight, his voice steady. "David, it's not what you think," he started. But David cut him off. "Don't lie to me." "Emma!" David shouted, taking a step toward Ryan. "Sarah told me everything. She saw you two on the porch, kissing. And now this?" He turned to me, his eyes filled with pain and betrayal. "Emma, how could you do this? With him?" Tears streamed down my face, the guilt I'd buried crashing over me like a tidal wave. "David, I'm so sorry," I choked out, my voice breaking. "I was lonely. I didn't mean for this to happen." "Lonely?" David spat, his voice thick with hurt. "That's your excuse? He's my brother, Emma." Sarah stepped forward, her voice sharp. "You need to fix this, Emma. You've gone too far." Ryan reached for my hand, his touch a fleeting comfort, but I pulled away, my heart tearing in two. "Ryan, please," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "This has to stop." His eyes searched mine, a flicker of pain crossing his face. "Emma, I love you," he said, his voice raw, the words a final confession that hung in the air like a wound. David flinched, his face crumpling. "Get out," he said to Ryan, his voice deadly quiet. "Get out of my house, now." Ryan hesitated, his gaze locked on mine, but I shook my head, tears blurring my vision. "Go," I whispered, the word tearing at my soul. He nodded, his shoulders slumping, and walked out, the door closing behind him with a finality that broke me. David turned to me, his eyes searching mine for something I couldn't give. "I don't know if I can forgive this," he said, his voice hollow. "But I need time, Emma. We need time." He walked upstairs, leaving me alone in the living room, the silence deafening. Sarah followed him, casting me a final look of disappointment. I sank to the floor, my body trembling, the weight of my choices crushing me. The fire that had consumed me was gone, leaving only ashes in its wake. I'd crossed a line I could never uncross, and now I had to live with the consequences. The house felt emptier than ever, a reminder of the life I'd risked for a moment of forbidden passion. And as I sat there, alone, I realized that some desires come at a cost too high to pay.